Hi, welcome to Ukulele. That was a short video of me playing along to the hit Foot Tapper by the band called The Shadows. It was a hit in the early 60s. And most of you may be aware, The Shadows are really famous for playing guitar-led instrumental pieces. And that's just the type of tune I like to take on as a challenge to learn on the ukulele. And hopefully today I'm going to give you some hints and tips of how to do that. Of course, you need a bit of determination. You have to have, an inquisitive mind, a bit of detective work to find out, where the notes are. And, you've got to be prepared to put the work in, but it is absolutely achievable. So let's start first of all regarding a little bit of learning psychology. So rather than look at it and think, there's just so many notes in there, I'll never be able to do it, and try and start to remove some of those barriers. So the first thing to think about is, well, all the notes that I need are on this instrument somewhere. Now, if I look at my ukulele as an example, which is a tenor, I've got 4 strings, I've got 20 frets, plus the open strings. So in total, if a bit of mathematics tells me there's 84 individual notes on this ukulele. So if all else fails when I'm trying to find a note, I could try 84 times and I'll hit it eventually. And I think that's an important piece of psychology. The note is there, you just need to find it. Now, obviously, if you've got to go through 84 computations on every single note, that would be quite a lot to do. So here's the good news. In most cases, everything on the ukulele is played up to and not going above the 8th fret. So if you take 8 plus the open is 9 times 4, now we've only got 36 notes. Rather than 84, we've got 36 notes to try, which is better. Still quite a lot though. Now, anyone who's got a little bit of musical theory knowledge or has played piano realizes that some of those notes repeat. For example, on my low G ukulele, if I play my open C, and then I hold down my 4th string on the 5th fret, I get the same note. Exactly the same note, just played in a different way on a different fret. So even at those 36 notes, it's probably 20 in total. So not quite such a big mountain to climb after all. And it's just about determination and detective work. So the other thing that we also need to think about is that if we look at that tune in totality, I think Hank Marvin plays about 550 notes throughout the whole tune. But of course, we don't really have to learn 550 notes individually, because like all pop tunes, there are patterns. So he'll play a particular opening pattern and then maybe repeat that, then he'll play it later on in the song. And there's probably 4 or 5 patterns that are just repeats going through. So once we've found the notes, and then once we've worked out the patterns, we can put it together like building blocks and learn a little bit, one pattern and then the next pattern. How do we move between those patterns and then move on and move on? Now, you're not going to do this in a couple of days. Even, myself, if I'm learning a song like Foot Tapper, I start and start working out maybe the intro pieces first of all, and then I repeat and repeat and repeat. There is no substitution for hard work, but it is achievable. It can be done. So let's get started and look at what are the first things that we need. Obviously, we need a ukulele and make sure it's nicely in tune. I then will look for a chord sheet of the song. Now, a song like Foot Tapper, I might be able to work it out, but the easy way really, I go to Ultimate Guitar. I'll put a link in their website up here. There are other websites, of course, that give lots of sheet music and chord diagrams, but I find that one's pretty good because it's very, very comprehensive. It often has a ukulele version. It's got a great version of Foot Tapper that somebody has actually scribed out with all the timings on there, and it's perfect to the record, so that's fantastic. And you can also, on Ultimate Guitar, transpose it. So if it's not quite in the key you want it, you can make a change and the change appears before your eyes, which is really fantastic. You can get a lot of this stuff for free on Ultimate Guitar, although, you know, I now pay a subscription because, you know, there's a lot of other stuff that I need up there. So just one thing, I've changed the key of foot tapper from C major, which is the original key, into D for reasons I will explain at the end of this video, rather than get into the nooks and crannies of why I've done that now. So, okay, so chord wise, we've got 5 chords in total. We've got D, we've got B minor, we've got G and A, and then in the kind of middle bridge piece, there's a tiny bit of E7. So the main chords are that D, B minor, G, A. So if we think about it, the tune starts, you know, the snare drum hits, and then the tune comes in and the rhythm guitar is playing, and you know, the lead is playing over that. So what we need to work out first of all is, can we find that first section, that da 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 da. Because if we can learn that and master that, play that to anybody, they'll instantly recognize that as a Shadows tune. So how do we do that? So first thing, big hint I'm going to give you is most of the notes are probably in the chord. So the starting chord, D major, and we're looking for da 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 da. That's all we're going to look for first of all, those first 4 notes. Da 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 da. It sounds like to me the first 2 are the same. Da 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 da, and those 2 are the same as well. So let's just see whether those notes actually appear in the chord that I'm holding down. So just keep your fingers on the chord, don't move it at all, and we'll try the first one. So the first one is actually an A note. Da da. No, da da. That doesn't sound right. Let's try the second one. So the second one is actually the D root of D major. Da da. So that sounds right. Da da. Now the next 2, da 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 da, sounds higher. So let's just try the next note in the chord. So we go da 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 da. Well, so they sound right. Da 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 da. So I haven't actually had to move off the chord at all. I've just left my fingers in position. Haven't had to do any kind of fancy fretwork. They're all there. Great, okay. So we've got our first 4 notes. So da 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 da. So da 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 da. So it's not quite that, nearly. So I'm just using those same 2 notes again. Da. So it goes down a bit, doesn't it? Da 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 da. So it can't be that one. That's too low. Let's just try moving down a fret. Oh. Okay, so it sounds like we've got the first few notes. Now I know my rhythm guitar now is going to move to B minor. So I'm moving from D, da 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 da. So what do I play now in the B minor? So I've hit the B minor. Da 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 da. Try the first 2 notes again, but this time on a B minor chord. They sound right as well. So I now got. Or we could just keep in the chord shape. So you can see already we're starting to bring together a recognisable piece of the tune. Now we know the next chord is G. So da 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 da. Da da. That sounds right. I'm missing a note at the beginning, but that sounds okay for the G. First two notes again, the chord, and then the last chord is A. Oh, first note of the A chord. So now we've got a few bits missing, but we're nearly there. So you can see that all I'm using is the chords and staying in position of the chords as would the rhythm player would, and I'm finding pretty well all the notes I need for the tune. So with a little bit of work, so how do I get to the, shall I try, I'm kind of in the B minor, that's it. As you can see, with just a little bit of playing around, I've now got the opening sequence. I haven't had to move my fingers up and down the fretboard. I've stayed in position on the chords. Pretty well all of the notes are in the actual chords that I'm playing. So I've got that guide, so I can be comfortable where I'm going. And with that bit of detective work and just taking the attitude that the note's there somewhere, it's not going to be way up the fretboard now, because all the other notes are coming within that kind of chord shaped sequence that I'm working on. So there's always a clue to that. You know, unless I'm playing some Radiohead piece or something by Bach, or, you know, the modern band Sleep Token, for instance, you know, which play, you know, very complex music. Most of this kind of regular pop music, it's going to be nice and achievable for you, and you're going to be able to find your way to getting to those particular notes. So the thing to do next is to keep practicing that opening piece. Not try and suddenly jump in to learn the whole tune altogether. You may give yourself just too much to do. It's about repetition. And, you know, what I would do with that is I would ensure that it felt comfortable and natural. Now that's a fairly straightforward piece, because we're playing the melody right off the regular chords and kind of within the same chord shape. All the notes are nice and close. Occasionally you might get one where, you know, the notes are, you know, going higher up the frets, or the position's changing, and you've got to find a way that your body finds comfortable to move in and out, because if it's uncomfortable and you can't get it, it just becomes much more difficult to play. So I would say with that particular one, you know, learn that first opening sequence and keep playing it until it kind of embeds on your mind and becomes natural for your fingers to do, that you're not having to look. What you really want to do is get to a point where you're not looking at the fretboard and you can play that piece. So you're comfortable. Comfortable, you know, looking directly in front of you, not looking at the fretboard. So you're almost looking at a picture in your mind of where the fretboard is to where your fingers are. And if you can get that, it will become a lot easier, because you don't need to be, you know, staring at that piece of paper or staring at a fretboard to get to the notes. It's really important for you to do that. That may take quite a bit of practice, but once it's there and it's starting to become natural, then it's easier to move on to the next piece. Now, rather than try and shove that all into one video, I'm going to leave it there for this part of the video. In the next video, we'll move on to the, and show you how to achieve that. Sounds a bit more difficult, but again, we can follow the kind of same basic rules for you. Now, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I'd actually transposed this tune from the original C major into D major, and I said I'd explain why I did that. And the reason I did that is simply I ran out of room on the ukulele to descend down the notes. So the da 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 da. If I played it in C, I can't get the note boom, boom, da, da. I'd have to go. I'd have to come right up. And okay, you could do that. It would be recognizable, but it was a compromise I didn't really want to make. And by moving it up to D, I've now got more notes behind my root note to go down to, and I managed to kind of achieve it, all barring one note in the middle section, which I think is okay. I was willing to accept a compromise of one note within a middle section where I actually went up an octave to achieve the full run. That's why, you know, the site Ultimate Guitar is really useful for that, because you can do a quick transposition. But also, you know, if you play along my version to the record, I'll be, you know, 2 semitones up in the key of D rather than in C. So I thought I'd just kind of explain that to you, that sometimes you have to change tunes to fit the instrument and make it easy and achievable to play. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you feel that you've got anything out of this video, please do like my video down below. And if you can subscribe, that would be even better. I would really appreciate that. Also, if you've got any comments about this video in particular, or any questions, you know, about the ukulele and kind of learning guitar pieces, please feel free to comment down below. I do reply to my comments as well. In between time, enjoy the ukulele.